Welcome to today's webinar, which is called Your Personal Budget. My name is Jenny. I work in client services here at BWP Inspire, and I'm going to be your moderator today. So for those of you who are already webinar aficionados, you will know that as a moderator, it just means that I try to ensure that there's no crazy business going on, especially from Steve. And I try to run a bit of a tight ship. So as I said earlier, we've got most people here today, which is absolutely fabulous. I know that today's content is definitely going to benefit me personally. I think I already confessed on social media yesterday that the Amazon app on the phone is a bit of a killer. So I know that once we've run through today's webinar, everyone will go away setting some amazing goals for managing money effectively going forward. So let's get on it. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the webinar environment, these are the Zoom settings. So let's take a closer look at the webinar controls. Select the audio settings to select and test your speakers, and you can submit questions via the question and answer button. Submit those questions at any point throughout the webinar today. Only me and Steve can see them at that point. And what I'll do is I'll collate the questions, and then Steve will answer them at the end of the webinar. So click leave meeting if you need to leave the meeting at any time. And I think that is all the techie stuff covered. So I'm going to introduce today's presenter, who you may or may not be familiar with, Steve Price, director here at Inspire, and he's going to try and help you cut down on your Amazon spend. Or is that just me? Hi, Steve.
Thank you, Jenny. I think we'll cover more than just Amazon, but obviously we all know your penchant for spending now. So thank you for that introduction, Jenny, and thank you to you all for making the time and sharing your time with us this afternoon. I want to encourage you all. Jenny did actually mention this anyway, but I want to encourage you all to take notes and obviously submit any questions that you've got, because that's the way you're going to get most out of this session. Okay, so just before we get stuck in, I just want to throw it in. It is our usual disclaimer that this is an educational webinar, and I don't want any of you to see it as a substitute for tailored advice specific to your particular circumstances. We are going to be talking about your personal budgets, and if there are any specific personal needs you've got out there, then do come to us and we'll talk through those personally, as opposed to the overall advice we're going to give you today. Okay, with that done, then what I want you to do is have a think about our thought of the day. It is critical that kids start to learn the value of money, short-term and long-term savings, and budgeting at an early age. So some of us were never taught these things as kids, but it's never too late to learn, and that's what today's all about. This pandemic has certainly highlighted some gaps in the business community's financial awareness skills. The best place to start in terms of growing these skills is with ourselves, and therefore obviously our children. I think we can all agree on that. And sometimes as accountants, we tend to focus more on business budgets and forecasts, and not so much on the personal budgeting aspects of financial management. But we do get a lot of questions from clients which do cross over into personal spending. So along the lines of, did I really spend that much last year? So good financial awareness, the skills for that start with having a personal budget. So let's have a look at what we're going to cover today. First of all, understanding what do we mean by personal budgeting, and then the obvious as well as the quite unexpected benefits of having a personal budget. We're going to look at the key elements of your personal budget and then how to complete your personal budget. And we're going to do that using our free template, which we're going to make available to you at the end of the session, because this is going to provide, if you like, a self-help option for you. We'll have a look at how to create an accountability structure so that once you've got your budget, you can stick to it as much as possible. We'll talk through your next steps. You know, if you are going to get use out of this, what your next steps should be. As usual, we'll cover the support we can lend. If any of you don't want to go this alone, we can step in and support you. And of course, back to those questions and answers. We'll answer any that you submit throughout today's webinar right at the end. Okay, let's get going then. So what is a personal budget? So I'll read it from the screen. A personal budget is a finance plan that allocates future personal income towards expenses, savings, and debt repayment. So this is the definition of a personal budget, and it's a very useful definition because it makes three important distinctions. So firstly, this is a personal budget. Its purpose and its form is quite different to the one you may have created for your business. Secondly, your personal budget is not just something you create and then chuck in a bottom drawer. It's got to be an actionable plan. And if you follow it, it's going to help you achieve your financial and hopefully your lifestyle goals. And lastly, your personal budget is forward facing. We're going to do it over a 12-month period and break it down into months. It allocates your future personal income, and that's going to include perhaps salaries, drawings, dividends from the business, whatever they might be, towards your personal expenses, your savings and your investments, and hopefully the reduction of personal debt. Put really simply, a personal budget is a plan that lays out how you will spend and save money. Okay, so what are the benefits of personal budgeting? Well, there are many benefits. Some of these are obvious and are financially focused. Others are focused on reducing stress and improving communication with your significant others. The value in having more control over your financial future cannot be underestimated. Focusing on your budget brings your focus to something that you can have real control over. And as I said at the beginning of this session today, personal budgeting helps you focus on your money goals and creates a better awareness of where your money is going. So, a common comment that our team get from clients when, if they're looking at their annual accounts in the review meeting and they see their personal drawings figure is, we can't possibly have spent that much money last year. And if you've ever had this thought or you've ever said that line, don't worry, you are in good company. This is a sure sign that by spending just an hour, 60 minutes each month, drilling down into your personal spending, you'll have greater awareness of where your money is actually going. Having money goals and an awareness of how much money you are spending and on what creates better money habits, which in turn helps you manage your debt levels. And this enables you to achieve your wealth goals. A personal budget also acts as an early warning system because you can anticipate upcoming costs. Having a budget is so important in regards to communication with your spouse. So, according to the marriage guidance experts, finance conflict is in the top 3 most common argued topics. And the other 2 apparently are parenting and sex. But don't worry, we are just going to focus just on that first one, on finance conflict today. At the end of the day, if you have a budget and you use it as one of your wealth creation tools, you will end up with more money and arguably less conflict and less stress. Okay, so if having a personal budget is such a smart thing to do, then how come we aren't all doing it? Let's see if we can start to answer that. Here are the top 7 reasons why so many of us don't have a personal budget. Setting up your annual personal budget and reviewing your progress every month is not a time-consuming process. It doesn't have to be time-consuming. There are some simple things you can do to make things easy on yourself. Firstly, make sure all your personal spending comes from just one account, one bank account or credit card account, and try not to pay personal expenses out of your bank account, out of your business bank accounts. That way, you'll only have one spending source that you're going to have to track. Secondly, get hold of a simple budget template to take the work out of setting one up. And as I've said, we can fill that gap for you. There is a template that we're going to provide for you today. Or as an alternative, you can go to an app. There's an app for everything now. I believe there's one's called Wally, there's one called Good Budget. You can go to an app on your phone, etc., and do it through that way. You could even go one step further and join a specialist personal budgeting coaching program. I'm not sure whether that's for everybody, but that's another option you can go to as well. Many people don't like the limits they feel a budget will place on them. But I would ask you to think of it more as a spending plan instead of a budget. It should actually be the exact opposite of confining. It's liberating because it results in guilt-free spending, because you know other pounds are already allocated to other expenses. You'll no longer have the fear that you might run out of money before the end of the month. If your problem is simply that you don't know where to start, then a simple budgeting tool and some online training is the solution. Perhaps this webinar right here, right now, is the solution. There is no doubt that money can be a cause of conflict within a household. This simple fact prevents many couples from even talking about budgeting. But conflict around money is never going to resolve itself. A personal budget is one simple step you can take towards a healthier relationship with money. Okay, now budgeting can be scary at first. You may not want to find out the cost of, let's say, your coffee habit. However, sticking your head in the sand isn't ever going to be the answer. Knowledge is power. It's healthier to deal with the truth and move on positively. Pride is an issue for some of us, but don't let your financial future be harmed because of your preconceived notion about who actually needs a spending plan. It's simple. We all do. I totally understand how easy it is to let budgeting slide. Watching a film or going to the pub, now that we're allowed, sounds much more fun than doing a budget. But set a monthly calendar reminder to spend just an hour each month reviewing your budget and your actual spending. Understanding the benefits and building the habit are the real keys. So, the first step in personal budgeting is to set up your 12-month personal budget with your income and expenses broken down on a monthly basis. So this can be done in an Excel spreadsheet or by using one of the apps I was referring to earlier on. Now remember, we've got this personal budget template. I'm going to show it you in a few minutes and we're going to give it away at the end of this, webinar. For those of you who've been on our webinars before, as you'll recall, you're headed over to a survey page, and if you want it, just tick the box and Jenny will get it sent straight over to you. So first, enter your monthly income and then enter your expenses line by line within categories so that you can see your monthly spend for each category. Seeing how much of your income needs to be allocated towards food, for example, well, it can actually be quite empowering. It's likely you'll have a good understanding of your monthly income, let's say from the drawings from your business or wages, salary, perhaps rental income, whatever it might be. However, you might not fully understand the extent of what you're spending each month. And to get a better idea of how much you're spending and what you're spending it on, it's a good idea to start by analysing your personal bank account or your credit card. But be prepared for a shock in some categories. If you would prefer to budget on a forward-facing basis, be sure to include any of the big ticket items, you know, such as insurance, council tax, maybe school fees, university fees, and drop those into the months in which they normally fall due. When budgeting your debt repayments, if this is applicable for you, this is your opportunity to plan for any increases or decreases if necessary, according to your cash surpluses. And that can then start to feed into your own wealth creation plan. Your personal budget goals may be to accumulate sufficient cash surplus to invest further back into your business or perhaps other investments. This is your personal budget and it needs to reflect your overarching family goals. Okay, so I'm going to flip over now into the actual template that we've got and give you the demonstration of how that works. So let me see if this works. Hopefully you can see my spreadsheet there. Let me talk you through this. So what you can see on the screen now is our personal budget template. It's really simple and easy to use. So I'm quickly going to run through how you might use it using some fake data. So first of all, select the year ending date. That can go in here, and it's all done by drop down lists. So if you want your budget to start as from June next month, then you put the year end date in as the 31st of May 2022, which was obviously a year on from your start month of next month. And then you come into here and you put your name. And then you simply press this button, begin budget. And what that does is it aligns all the months to the period that I've just entered. So again, starting June, running up to May of next year. And then it comes down, I'm just going to scroll down slightly to the individual lines. It starts with the income from whatever source they might come. And then it goes through, and I'll show you in a minute, it goes through all the expenses category by category. So the next step is to enter your monthly income. And the fastest way to do this is to select the payment frequency from the drop down and enter the amount. So let's say that we receive, in this particular scenario, we receive income from two sources. Let's say firstly, we receive £5,000 per month in business drawings. So it's already set to monthly, and then I would put £5,000 there. And as you can see, because it's on monthly, it's saying that I will consistently get that each month. Let's say that in addition to that, we also get a monthly salary. Perhaps we might be a director, and we can allocate that in. And then say on a couple of months in the year, we take an additional dividend. But because that isn't spread over the year, I'm going to select manually, and I'm going to say, let's say in October, we're going to take £3,000 and £4,000 in February. It's all arbitrary, but that might be a way that we might set up our income for the next year, or at least our budgeted income for the next year. Okay, next we go in and we enter all our planned expenses. And as I said earlier, these are broken down into categories. So we have household, food. I'll just do it quite slowly so you've got a chance just to glance at the categories that there are. Apparel, children, insurance, transport, lifestyle, and then at the end, debt repayments. So we've tried to cover what could be a case of everything, but of course not everything in that will necessarily be applicable to you. So again, let's put some examples in there. So again, the fastest way to do this is to select the payment frequency and then the amount. So let's say, for instance, we have a monthly mortgage, which is, let's say, £875 a month. Let's say we have a monthly gas bill, electricity, etc., all our utilities combined at £145 a month. Now that would be applicable if you're on a direct debit system with your utility provider, but of course if you're paying by meter readings, that might have to be input manually because it will be perhaps heavier in the winter months, etc., etc. And then let's say that the cleaner, we have a cleaner in our house and we pay the cleaner, let's say £30 a week. So the calculations within the spreadsheet work out what the monthly cost that should be. Now, rather than spending the day doing this, you will see, and perhaps have already noticed, as I go down, I've already just started to put some other costs in there as well. So amounts for groceries and takeaways and school uniforms, etc., etc., etc. So you go through the same process for each category until you're quite happy that you've accommodated all your anticipated expenses for the next year. And as you add data to the spreadsheet, the month by month and the cumulative cash surpluses update, as do the donut graph. So what is the donut graph? So when we come to the top here, that shows you just at a glance exactly what the implications of this are to deliver what might be your surplus there. And of course, alarm bells are going to ring if that actually shows a deficit at that stage, because what that's telling us is that we don't anticipate having the income to cover our planned expenses. And again, that is one major benefit in doing this, though it will be a shock. We'd rather find that out now. Okay, so that's the input screen, and then I can go flip over into the actual performance screen. And each month you'll review your budget and enter your actual income and expenses. The budget column will automatically populate when data is entered into the actual column for the month. So let's say in that first month in June, I actually drew 4,500, then it tells me, well, actually, yeah, that's okay, but you were budgeted 5,000 in this. And now we can start to compare the two. So that will help us to see if we're on track. And obviously, this is how we're now measuring and tracking our personal budget. And if after a few months, you feel like your original budget isn't realistic, then you're going to need to make the necessary changes to the personal budget sheet for the remaining months. And you're possibly going to need to rethink your own debt or your own spending obligations. Let's just very quickly tab over to a full one I've already done. Which is here in PDF format. So this is just a printout from the template. So this is how it might look once completed. We've got our full summary there, which says in this particular example for a guy called Ken and a girl called Sue, their annual income is 93,000. They have anticipated spending of 84, leaving them that cash surplus. And of course, they can start to make plans for this surplus if over the course of the year they're able to stick to this budget. So you'll recognize the screens now. They are as I input earlier on. So they've got their income plan there, and you can see the totals feed up into the summary here. And then we can go through and we can see their full plan. And then as it comes further down, we then start to see their actual versus plan throughout that year as it gets full on. So this is an example of the personal budget plan in place and being used over the course of the year. This is how it gets managed. That goes straight through like that. Okay, let's move on. There's a little point in preparing a personal budget if you don't monitor your progress. Preparing the budget will be a valuable experience as you'll learn where your money actually goes. However, it's only the first step. And this principle is the same when we're talking about business planning as well. You must realize it's only the first step. It is not job done to just have a plan. The enduring value comes from seeing your spending habits improve and having open and comfortable discussions about where money goes and how you're going to achieve your personal financial goals. I can't stress that bit enough. It's key to track your spending on a monthly basis. For some couples, discussions about spending and budgeting are normal, but for others, particularly where money behaviors differ, conversations about money can become tense. And in this case, some people may consider engaging an external facilitator to sit down with you to work through your budget, and so it can be non-judgmental and they can be used as a sounding board. This can also provide you with that oh so important independent accountability. And as I'll show you later, personal budgeting coaching is something that we can get involved with if you'd like us to. Throughout the process, Try to have some fun and even bring some light to what can be a very serious topic. How about you celebrate your wins? And yes, celebration might actually include spending money as well. Thinking back to our thought of the day earlier on in the presentation, don't hide this from your children. Let them see that you set time aside to work out your budget. Make this a normal process, and if you can, make it lighthearted, not ominous or scary. So we know that focusing on personal spending can seem confrontational. You may get worried that your spouse or your accountant will judge your spending. That's really not the focus of setting a personal budget. Your personal budget is just that. It's personal. It's yours alone. Your budget simply reflects your decisions around how you spend your earnings and how much should be left over for debt reduction or savings or investments, etc. So instead of dwelling on the roadblocks, time, fear, pride, remember to focus on just the benefits. Better control, focus, better awareness, improved money habits, and ultimately achieving your wealth creation goals. Focus on the benefits you seek to gain, and then take that first step of setting your annual personal budget. Obviously, you've seen it now. You can use our simple tool, or you can go and use an app. Focus on the expenses you can and want to control, and get support from us if you need any help on this, or if you're just looking for that independent accountability. So we always show you this slide. So, you know, we can show you what you can take from this for free. If you, I'll go to number 3 first. That's the free option. That template that I've showed you, you can do all this yourself. This does not have to be a spending exercise today. We will gladly give you that template. You saw the 2 tabs. I didn't show you the tab that has a full set of instructions as well. It comes with all its instructions. You can literally use that. Let's roll back to options 1 and 2. If you do want our involvement, you might just want us to review it, and we can do that, and the price is on screen. Or you might say, well, actually, I want to get you guys involved. I want that independent accountability, or I want my accountant to go through this with me and make sure, you know, I'm doing this not just as a one-off exercise, but ongoing, and you can see the price for that as well. So as we've always tried to do, there's a cost-free option here, and then you can have more support from us if you choose it. And as always, in every slide we've put up here, you can request a meeting with one of our guys and say, right, you were telling me about personal budgeting. Can you tell me all about it? I want a meeting. I want to explore how it might work for me. Okay, I'm going to ask Jenny to come back into the conversation. I don't know whether we've had any questions, Jenny.
Hello, yes. Cheers, Steve.
Sorry, Jenny, shall we turn our cameras on?
Oh, I thought you'd forgot. Yeah, no problem.
Let's go for it.
All right. Oh, you can just see my top of my head, I think. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah. Yeah, brilliant webinar. The content, I think, has got everyone really thinking about getting back control of finances. I can definitely see that from the chat. It's been a massive sort of wake-up call, discovering where money actually goes for some people. So we all have a bit of a tendency, I think, to gloss over, and I think if we're honest, probably lie to ourselves a little bit about where our money goes. I know I do. But I think that awareness and that accountability is key in recalibrating our habits, I think. So we have a few questions here. Lindsay says, what happens if we don't know how much income we're going to get or be able to take from our business?
Right. Okay. So, right, straight in with a brilliant question then, because that is a really important factor here. So if we all have jobs and we're on salary, and at the end of each month, we know how much money we're going to get, that this exercise of personal budgeting, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a lot easier because the income side becomes flatter. We know what it is, we can depend on it, and then we have to set our expenses against it. Not easy, but much easier. The thing is, we're giving this talk today to business owners, and not all business owners, but a lot of them will be able to take drawings from their business dependent on how successful and what cash surpluses the business has in it. And that's where the complexity starts to come. That's what the question is all about. So if we don't know what income we're going to get for the next year, then the first thing I'd say is that's why personal budgeting is so much more important. Because we can turn this round on its head and say, well, look, if we live the lifestyle that we're expecting to, and we know we've got to feed a family of 4 and we've got university fees, or we've got a mortgage of X amount, all these things, blah, 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 which will be very personal to everyone, we can start to say, well, we know that if we're going to live the life we expect to in the next 12 months, this is the amount of drawings we're going to need. So that's a very big question answered, not how much can the business give us, but how much do we need from our business? And that's what we call a bottom-up budget. It becomes massively important to at least have sight of that. And then we can start to run our business budgets to say, well, okay, if we need this amount of money, if we need 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 a year, okay, what do we need to do in our business to make that happen? So it does, sorry, did you say Lindsay? It does make it more complicated, but actually it becomes all the more important for doing it in the first place.
Brilliant. Oh, I hope that's answered your question there, Lindsay. Got one from Tom. Is there an easy way to figure out personal tax to put away for those of us who are paid by dividends?
There is, and I can answer this in a technical way and tell you what the tax rules are. But it's a service that we can provide as well. We can do it quite easily via email or over the phone. But I'll go quite basic to begin with. So when you issue dividends to yourself from your business, the first thing we have to think about is the tax year. So it runs from the 6th of April through to the 5th of April the next year. We do have the opportunity to use timing to our advantage of this, and we can draw down before or after year end. But within any tax year, at the moment, the way the bands work is the first £2,000 per person are tax-free and don't need to be declared. And then if you're a basic rate taxpayer, you're within the band up to 50,000 at the moment, your dividends after that will be payable at 7.5%, and then they go up to 32.5% for somebody who is a higher rate taxpayer. There's also an additional rate, etc., etc. But by that stage, we would really impress on you to come to us as your accountants to say, look, I'm planning to take £60,000 out this year. I'm planning to take 30. Can you just give me an idea of what my tax obligations will be? And what we can do is that, and perhaps even we can do a little bit of tax planning with you, depending on how you draw money out of the business and the timing of which you're able to do it as well. It's a little bit more complicated than I can answer as a general question, but certainly that is the sort of question which we field regularly with our clients, and which we're more than happy to help with.
All right, fantastic, great stuff. We've got one here from Adrian. Would you recommend doing a personal budget together with my wife, or should we each do our own personally? Knowing nods there.
So it does depend upon how you run your finances at home. So I won't make any preconceptions about what's going on in your particular home. There is no right or wrong way. But if you have shared income, shared obligations, shared bills to pay, which most households do, it's almost critical that you do it together. So you might have 2 sources of income coming in, but very often you'll have only one list of expenses to pay out, and it's only when you bring them together that you can make any sense of that. I do believe that there are households out there where it is completely separate. One person might take care of the mortgage, the other takes care of the bills, and in that case if completely separate, you might say, well, we'll have independent budgeting. But even then, you are missing the opportunity to have a healthy culture of personal budgeting, and you're missing the opportunity of becoming accountable to each other as well. So it's not for Jenny or I to get involved in the mechanics of your relationship. If you do live completely separately finance wise, then that's not for us to judge, but you miss the opportunity to actually really make financial budgeting part of a healthier lifestyle, if you like, if you do that.
Absolutely. And then question from Daniel. I am getting a bit conscious of time. Daniel has asked, what happens if we have credit cards?
Yeah, okay, so that is quite an easy one to answer, because it's just another source of tracking the money. Credit cards are normally only money going out, aren't they? There's I don't think there's ever money coming into a credit card, or at least not significant money. So all that means is that when you're tracking your actual expenses, you've got to take them from your bank account, and then you've got to go through your credit card as well. It doesn't change the exercise, it just makes it a bit harder. I think in one of the earlier slides, I said if you're able to try and funnel everything through the one account, it makes this exercise a lot easier.
Brilliant. Just got a very quick one from Richard. Thank you, Jenny and Steve, a great presentation. Recently reviewed my own spending and was amazed by the number of forgotten apps, entertainment subscriptions, etc. How do we request a copy of the template? I think we mentioned this earlier. Once you leave this webinar, you will be asked to into a survey, and you can request a copy of the template on that. So I hope that answers that for you, Richard. But yeah, brilliant questions, everyone. Thanks again for those. These webinars definitely work best when everybody mucks in and comments and questions. So I'll definitely be giving myself a good talking to, Steve. And the next time you see you, my bank account's going to be like Bill Gates. Thank you, everybody.
In something as of a personal confession session. Okay, if that's all the questions, let me just move on. Yep. The last couple of slides here. So just before we go, I would just like to share this thought with you. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. If you think about that, that's a really clever line. And a personal budget is just that. It's you deciding where you want your money to go, so it's you taking control. I know it's not the easiest topics we've discussed this afternoon, but that's got to be a good thing.
Definitely.
Okay, so look, thank you from Jenny and I, thumbs up from Jenny and I for making the time to attend this webinar. Obviously, we appreciate you shared with us your most valuable thing this afternoon, which is your time. I hope it's been useful for you. You are going to be directed to another screen now. If you want that template, it's a simple spreadsheet. I hope we've demonstrated how easy it is to use. We implore you to ask for it, and we'll give it you. There's no problem at all. We want, if you don't mind, we'd like just a little bit of feedback, what sort of topics you'd like us to address. And we are set to do another webinar next month. Do we have the date in yet, Jenny?
I can let everybody know by email. We did have a date, didn't we?
I can't think of it off the top of my head. We've got next month's planned in, but we're that focused on personal budgeting. We're just not on dates right now, but we'll let you know in the usual ways via our social media and email. So from Jenny and from me, thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Bye-bye.